Hey babe, there's something I've kept buried for far too long. So deep inside me that sometimes I wonder if I even recognize myself beneath the weight of it. I've been holding on to this secret, an uncomfortable truth I wasn't prepared to face, and it has shifted the very ground I thought I stood on. My sense of security, my confidence in knowing who I was with, and even my trust in my own judgment, everything feels like it's been torn apart. I know this might catch you off guard. It's probably the last thing you expected to hear from me, but I owe it to you and to myself to finally let it out. For quite a while, I believed I was living a life grounded in truth. I thought that the person by my side understood me in ways no one else could, that they would never betray me. But the hard reality is that I was wrong, so wrong that I still struggled to comprehend how I missed it all. The illusions I clung to have slowly unraveled, leaving me shocked and reeling. Each time I look back, I'm confronted with a reminder of how I chose to ignore my own instincts, my own intuition, and the red flags waving right in front of me. This has been weighing heavily on my heart. I've been lying awake at night, reliving the mistakes, the betrayals, and the moments of willful blindness that brought me here. I feel haunted by the knowledge that I hurt you in the process, turned my back on something genuine in exchange for something hollow. If you can spare a little time, I want to lay it all out there with total honesty. Maybe through confession, I can begin to heal. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find a path to understanding, not necessarily forgiveness, but at least a window into what truly happened. The raw truth is this: I was catfished by the woman I chose over you. I know how absurd that sounds. Believe me, it still sounds absurd in my own head every time I say it. But it's what happened. The person I placed my faith in, the person I sacrificed our relationship for, was nothing like who she pretended to be. And the strangest, saddest part is that I fell for her lies without much resistance. It's as though my defenses were down from the start, and I simply didn't want to see the cracks in her story. In looking back, it's glaringly obvious how many small clues I overlooked. Tiny details that didn't align, moments where her explanations felt a bit too convenient or contradictory. But I was so caught up in the possibility of this exciting, seemingly perfect connection that I brushed them all aside. I told myself I was overthinking. I reminded myself of how rare it feels to meet someone who just gets you on a deeper level. So I convinced myself that the inconsistencies were trivial or that I was being too sensitive. She was masterful at creating an illusion. On social media, her profile felt real, even vulnerable. She posted pictures that seemed authentic, candid moments with friends, snapshots of her travels, glimpses into what appeared to be a thoughtful, engaging life. She wrote these heartfelt captions that made me think she was someone reflective and kind. She sent messages at all hours, asking me about my day, listening attentively to my worries, and sharing stories that felt intimate and raw. It was so easy to believe I'd found someone who understood my soul, who matched my emotional frequency in a way I'd always hoped for. That's the seduction of a well-crafted lie. It offers us exactly what we crave. She was giving me that sense of validation, that sense of being cared for in a way that felt almost too good to be true. And yet, I was so eager to accept it that I ignored the small, persistent voice in my head that tried to question each convenience, each too perfect moment. If there was a puzzle piece that didn't fit, she always had a quick, persuasive explanation. Instead of pressing harder, I let her reassurance silence my doubts. But illusions, no matter how carefully woven, don't last forever. Each time I tried to piece her story together, matching dates, looking for context, trying to figure out how her past aligned with her present, I started noticing more glaring gaps. Stories that once seemed charming now felt rehearsed. Timelines fell apart when I really scrutinized them. Photos that once looked spontaneous started seeming staged. It was like a carefully painted backdrop, and when I touched it, my fingers pushed right through into nothingness. The moment everything began to collapse, I felt my heart sink into my stomach. I remember scrolling through her messages, reading them with fresh eyes, and feeling a cold shock spreading through me as I recognized how many pieces simply did not align. It was as if I'd put on a new pair of glasses, and everything was suddenly in sharp focus. That's when I knew for certain that I'd been deceived. You'd think there'd be a moment of relief in discovering the lie, but instead, I felt shame and panic. How had I let this happen? How could I have been so gullible, so desperate for something that I ignored the truth? Then came the crippling guilt. I had chosen this illusion over you, over the real, flawed, authentic bond we once shared. I had turned my back on something tangible for a mirage. That realization crushed me. I understood then that I'd not only been deceived, but I'd also inflicted my own form of betrayal by walking away from someone who genuinely cared. I'm not asking for your pity. You deserve the truth, the unvarnished reality of what led me here. I let myself be misled, yes, but I was also complicit in clinging to this fantasy when I should have known better. Maybe I was lonely, or maybe I was running from the difficulty of honest communication in a real relationship. Real love can be messy and demanding, but I see now that true connection is worth every moment of complexity. And I threw it aside for a carefully polished lie, one that promised me a slice of excitement and attention wrapped in half-truths. I don't expect you to forgive me. I understand that trust is fragile, and I shattered it. Even though I was fooled, I still had a choice, to look deeper or to stay willfully blind. I chose the latter, and in doing so, I hurt you. That's a mistake I'll have to live with, no matter what happens now. Yet, I hope you can see the sincerity in my confession. I'm laying it all out because you deserve to know every detail, every reason I ended up betraying what we shared. This entire experience has forced me to question everything about myself, my judgment, my desires, my ability to distinguish truth from fiction. If I could be fooled so easily, what other illusions have I fallen for? How many times have I doubted something real in favor of something superficially appealing? I found myself reevaluating not just romantic relationships, but friendships, family dynamics, even my own goals. It's like a shockwave hit, and everything is under scrutiny now. In a twisted way, it's a gift, because it means I'm forced to grow. But it's also a burden, because it highlights how I undervalued the genuine connections I already had. The guilt and regret are immense. Every time I think about you, about what we had, the hopes we might have shared, my chest tightens. I wish I'd been braver, more willing to ask hard questions and face potential disappointment early on. I wish I'd honored the love right in front of me instead of chasing an illusion that, deep down, I might have suspected was too perfect to be true. It's a regret I'll carry with me, and I don't expect you to absolve me of it. I know you may never see me the same way again. I know you might read these words and only feel more betrayed, more certain that I'm not someone you can trust. I can't argue with that. All I can do is present my full, honest story and hope that you understand my remorse, my profound sorrow for letting you down. I'm not looking for a clean slate or a happily ever after scenario. I only want you to know that I finally see the full picture of what I did, and it weighs heavily on my conscience. Sometimes, I toy with the idea that maybe I needed this harsh lesson. Maybe I had to see firsthand how easily a fantasy can consume me to realize the importance of real connection, complete with imperfections, misunderstandings, and all the raw honesty that comes with it. I never want to feel this emptiness again. I never want to look back and realize I've betrayed someone who genuinely cared because I couldn't be honest with myself. Even if we can't mend what's been broken, I hope that someday you find a place in your heart for compassion, if not for me, then for the person I'm trying to become after learning such a painful lesson. I hope you find peace in knowing that I'm being genuine now. I can't rewrite the past, but I can face you with truth instead of carefully packaged lies. And if there's even a faint glimmer that we can salvage some understanding, some measure of respect or closure, I would cherish that. This confession doesn't magically undo the hurt. I know that. It doesn't take away the anger or the heartbreak you must feel, realizing that I chose a fabricated persona over the real you. But I needed to admit it, if only to stop carrying the burden of this lie any longer. There's a strange relief in being fully transparent, even if it's accompanied by a mountain of shame and regret. No matter what happens from here on out, I'll be more cautious with my heart, more deliberate in seeking truth, and more respectful of the trust people place in me. This entire ordeal has been a brutal teacher, but if I can walk away with one positive thing, it's the understanding of how vital honesty and genuine connection are. I won't take them for granted again. If you need space or time, I completely understand. If you never want to speak to me again, I can't blame you. All I ask is that you recognize I'm not hiding behind excuses. I'm not shifting blame. I own my role in the catastrophe. I own my gullibility, my choice to ignore signals, my willingness to chase a mirage while turning my back on what was real. It's a harsh self-realization, but it's mine to bear. I think about the moments we shared, the laughs, the conversations, the sense of security I used to feel, and I regret letting all of that slip away. It's a painful reminder of how easily I traded something genuine for empty promises. If I could turn back time, I would cling to the reality we had instead of being dazzled by a digital fantasy. I understand that chance may be gone forever now,